Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be installing a genuine BorgWarner billet S472 SXE. This is their new improved 6.6 AR front cover, 360 thrusts, and we're going to make a jump in turbine size from our old 467.7 from an 83 turbine to an 87 turbine. We're going to keep it in that same 9.0 housing. I know those spool well on 5.9 trucks at our elevation, and I do daily drive this truck every day to work. I took it down to Southern California for Christmas, and I took it to Flagstaff to get seats, so we get some miles on this thing. I kind of wanted to show you guys the popular S400. So I don't like the 464. It's a waste of money, waste of time. I hate it. It's useless. The 467.7 did extremely well. It did 770-ish horsepower on this, and it drove fantastic. I think what we're going to see on this 72 is about a 200 RPM change in peak power. I think the torque's going to be later as well. And I'm expecting it to pick up, according to BorgWarner, should pick up about 100 horsepower over the 467.7. So that should put us mid to upper 800s. Again, we still are pushing this. James is still tuning the truck. We got some more fuel settings to mess around with. As you guys saw on the 467.7, it was flooding it. We're going to use some of that bigger tune-up for the fuel and basically get this 472 installed. Very simple. Because it is a bigger turbine, we're going to have to take the housing off the steed speed, put a new gasket on, swap over our drain line, our oil feed line, and then put our intake setup back on, get it all swinged up. Shouldn't take too long. Luckily, we got Shad welding up our cover. I'll get you guys some footage of that, and we'll check out this turbo. Again, guys, here is this 472 Ripper right here. This is the billet wheel, 87 turbine. This is a genuine Borg. No Wu-Tang war whistles here. The same Marmon flange and that 87 turbine. This is what's going on. Let's go take a look at what Shad's got going on in the fab shop. So we got Shad on the dime stacker. Basically, this is the 6.6 cover. These are non-V-banded. Little inconvenient, but you got to do what you got to do. You basically cut the slip boot off, take one of these aluminum V-bands, and he is going to weld it on there. Any tips for the guys welding aluminum?
Make sure it's clean. When you do aluminum, the cleaner you can get it, the better.
So it's all about the prep work.
Prep work is definitely key.
All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and watch him stack a couple dimes. All right, so Shad's gonna tack weld it. He tack welds it in 4 spots to prevent the flange from staying or pulling on him. That way it stays true. And the crazy part about aluminum is it just takes all the amps. We have a Lincoln Precision Take 275 at the shop. Dang, dude. I gave you a contaminated flange. And basically he's just checking it's true, so he's gonna get those 4 tacks, and then he alternates around. We'll kind of show you guys the finish welding. All right, so we got our 4 tack welds in place. Shad, go ahead and take over.
So basically, aluminum warps really easy. So what you kind of want to do is you want to stagger your welds. So like generally what I'll do is I'll weld one side and then I weld the opposite side. And then I'll go the opposite side from there and weld this side, and then I weld this side. So it just kind of alternates the heat around it so that it doesn't wind up with a hot spot and you don't wind up with a warped flange that doesn't hold boost.
Oh, that'd be no. Shad got her all welded. I'm not an expert, but this looks a hell of a lot better. Little funny story about me, guys, while we're checking out these welds. The first time I tried to weld aluminum, I had mild steel filler. And God, dude, that shit was just butter. So we'll go ahead, get our 467.7 pulled out and get this beautiful 472 dropped in. So guys, on this turbo, pretty simple. Intake comes off, disconnect the elbow with the V-band. We'll get the oil feed and oil feed fitting pulled out, disconnect the drain and drain flange because that's going to go on the new turbo. disconnect the downpipe. And the way I pull them out, I pull the cover off, then I pull the super core out, then I pull the turbine housing off. That way we can get access to those 4 bolts. So we'll go ahead. I kind of went into this on installation. It's literally the exact opposite. And we'll get that 472 ripper put on. As you guys can see here, this thing is still just in mint condition. We're gonna be using this for a compound setup later, so I'm really glad it survived the testing. And we'll just keep taking stuff apart. So we got these center sergeant taken out. We're gonna go ahead and finish up the bolts. These S400s, this is how I take them out. I take them out as a center cartridge. As you can see here, this compressor wheel looks just fine. Turbine wheel looks minty, and compressor cover looks fine. So all in all, this turbo survived about 2.5 weeks. And I did a lot of cha-cha-cha-chas. So we'll go ahead. And we got Meyer for sure.
That was bad.
It was embarrassing. He should sell it. All right, so we got that off. We're gonna go ahead and pull the gasket off. These are those nice MLSs. We'll put a fresh one on. And we got our turbine housing off. So now we gotta transfer this fitting. Again, we use 545 on that. Put it into the 472. The drain fitting into the 472 with a fresh gasket. And then get the turbine housing mounted up on it. One thing I love about S400s is they're just like, I don't know, like Legos. You just kind of swap one in. And then remember guys, we do the alternating method. So I'll tighten up this one, and then the next one I will do will be the bottom back one. And then from there I'll do this one, and then I'll do this one. Again, I don't really have a torque spec. I just kind of go till they're snug plus a little bit. And then the downpipe's gonna fit just fine because they're all that Marmon S400 flange. And we'll just kind of knock it out. All right, so we got our bolts tightened down. Sorry, our nuts on our studs. We got our downpipe hooked up. Now we're gonna go ahead. We got Shad on the camera. We're gonna get this 472 dropped in. After screwing around with some S300s today, actually watching people screw around with S300s today, I am so grateful for the V-band. And basically all I do, you want to make sure it's nice and flush. I'll take a rubber mallet, kind of tap it up and down, make sure it's fully seated. Meyer actually taught me that trick. And then one thing that has bit me in the ass a couple of times now is make sure the V-band clamp is sitting on the turbine housing where the wide part of this clamp here doesn't interfere, or else you'll have one heck of a drive pressure leak. And this is all I mean. You just kind of apply some force to the compressor wheel here and get it spun down, and we'll get this turbo drain kind of oriented correctly. So basically guys, what I do, kind of tap up here, tap down there. As I'm tightening this clamp, make sure it's fully seated. And then you give her the old spin, make sure she's in there nice and straight. We got the drain on. All that's left is the oil feed line fitting. We'll get her pre-lubed and put the fitting on. All right guys, so now we're gonna go ahead and pre-lube the turbo. Again, one of these little Harbor Freight jerry cans right into the fitting. Get it pumping, give her a nice little spin. Even if the turbo is used, I always recommend a nice little pre-lubrication process. Turbo's been sitting for a little bit. That way you got good fresh oil in the burns for the first fire up. And yeah, we'll get this line on. And I decided to paint the cover because I had a little bit of time, and the cover was so hot I think it probably dried. What do you think, Shed?
I think it's very dry.
Okay, so we'll get the cover put on. All right, so to avoid the confusion of the turbochargers, I went ahead and painted this cover a different color. That way there is none of this, oh, it's the same turbo, yada yada. And again, these V-bands are just money. V-band contact. And now again, the beauty of these S400s, this just goes right in like so. Get the clamp put on, get that ran in. We'll tighten that up. And then I do have a little surprise for you guys, something that came in the mail that we're gonna add to this. Something that if you guys follow me for a while, know I put on every truck we'll get that put on here. I would have done it on the 467.7. It just didn't show up in time, so we'll get to show it to you guys. Get our intake put on. This is gonna be the same intake we had. Like I said, these S400s just make life super easy because everything is just so universal. We'll get this put on after I get done fighting with it. Fresh paint is always kind of a pain in the butt. And then the first time I go to take this off, I'm gonna regret this decision. But big jobs. Make sure we got good clearance on the alternator. We'll just tighten up these worm clamps and we'll be ready to bog. We're gonna be installing a turbo blanket. This is one off Amazon. It comes out of Aurora, Illinois. This is actually made like 2 blocks away from my dad's business before he retired. Good quality. We have these on the 05. We had them on the 11. They're like $44 and they actually hold up really good. I think the trick to it is this inner mesh here. It just really holds up well. It comes with 2 springs. So we'll get this thrown on. At the very least, it prevents the turbine housings from looking all nasty and crusty and rusty. So kind of aesthetics. And also with the way our air conditioner line is routed, it does give us a little bit more thermal cushion as far as that goes. The first time you put it on, it's not bad. As you keep putting it on and off and on and off, I would recommend gloves because the fiberglass does go flying. And we'll just hook up the springs. Usually I just do the back one, a little easier to get to. Usually I lose the one spring like the first time I put it on. So one spring seems to do just fine for us. And essentially what these do, they have a nice thermal barrier so it doesn't melt things, especially when you run a inverted second gen swap. The other nice thing that these do, because they keep the heat inside the turbine housing, we did a video with Power Driven about 2 years ago when I first started with Myers truck. It increased spool up by about 50, 100 RPM faster. So these do actually make a difference, as well as they kind of clean up the engine bay. The company that makes these, they're available in black, which is like double the price. And then this regular color, which I feel like looks very good. Wrapped up the installation on this. All that's left is to check the engine bay for miscellaneous hammers. Make sure we lose all Myers tools. And a first fire. Again, we were able to use the same manifold, same downpipe, same oil feed, same oil drain, same intercooler piping, same clamp down here, same intake setup. That's why, again, I say it again, these S400s are just so interchangeable. It makes it really easy to swap. Real time, this took about 1 hour and 10 minutes. So we'll get you guys that first fire. All right, guys, so that's gonna wrap up the 472 install. Just driving it around on the way home last night and the morning of for work. This thing does spool up a little bit slower as I would expect. Still very drivable. I think we're kind of getting away from heavier towing. This might work for like a boat, jet ski, but I'll put some clips in here of us driving, some sound clips. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. All in all, turbo went in really smooth, performs really well. I'm happy with it. Again, this is a Borg-Warner 472 SXE 87 turbine in a 0.90 T4 housing. As always, guys, like this video, subscribe if you're not to follow along on our quest for that 1,000 horsepower, and leave a comment down below. I'll catch you guys on the next one.